We hear a lot about a renewal cliff in Canada. There's a mortgage renewal cliff coming in Canada. And there is somewhat of a cliff, but is it more like just a hill? So let's break it down. We've gone through 2023. It wasn't a big renewal year. In the scheme of things, 2023 was not the biggest of renewal years. Believe it or not, there's a cycle to it. There's not even spread of mortgage renewals every year. It's not just 20% every year, nothing like that. There's big years and small years. 2023 was not a big year. And people did have increases. That did happen. So how did they react to them? Because some of the increases were big. Some people were at like 299, went to 649, 689, 714. There were some big jumps. But most people did navigate it. We saw some houses were sold. We also saw the rise of variable rates. You know, the people who had the people who had bank mortgages with variable where the payment did not increase because the interest rate went up, and some of those people had the huge amortizations, like it showed 92-year amortization, then it went to an infinity sign, and then the mortgage started to get bigger. I mean, yes, we've had those, and some of those people have been approached by their bank and they have actually increased their payments. So we went through a year of constantly increasing payments, and there's no big default rate in mortgages right now, like none. It's factually as historic a low as we've ever seen amongst the big banks. It's still around 16 basis points. That's less than 0.25% of 90-day default. So the truth is, amongst bank mortgages, Canadians have always been this way. To tell you the truth, they've always been fantastic mortgage payers. That's been a universal truth of Canada for 40, 50 years now. But so far, so good. Not very little defaults. People are paying. Yes, houses have been sold. People looked at some of the increases and said, I can't manage this, and sold their homes. But that's a relatively rare occurrence. All right, so what's going to happen next? 2024 is a much bigger year in terms of renewals than 2023. Is there going to be a big cliff now? Well, we're going to find out, but indications are that it will be more manageable. Here's the facts. Rates are coming down. We've seen 5-year fixed rates in the 4s, 4.74, 4.99. It's not 6% anymore. And believe it or not, that does make a difference. People in 2024 are coming off rates in 2019. Those rates were actually somewhat higher. They were like 3.99, 3.89, 3.75. So they were higher. Now, the really, really big years in the renewal business, 2025 and 2026, they're monsters. They're absolutely huge. What's going to happen? We really don't know. One of the problems with things being that far away is people just sell houses. I mean, people get job transfers, people leave the country, people's marriage break down, sadly, and they have to sell a house. So not everybody is going to get to the point of renewal in 2025 and 2026. Just naturally, the houses are going to be sold. But when they get there, 2025 and 2026 are also the really, really big differences. You know, through part of 2025, half of 2025, half of 2026, those people are coming off the lowest rates maybe ever in the history of Canada. People back in 2022, in the second half of 2000, who will be renewing in 2025, some of those people had 1.99 rates. Some of the people in 2021 have 1.69 rates. Some of them even had 0.99 rates on variable. So yes, it's the all-time lows in the history of our country, and it's coming up. Now, is that a big disaster? Okay, the rates are going to be much, much higher, but some of them will be sold, as I discussed, and the rates will probably be more like in the 4s. There'll be a few rates that are in the 3s, high 3s. So it won't be as big a disaster as going into the 7s, because the 7s, high 6s, that's a disaster, okay? Now, if I'm suggesting that it just might be a hill that people will climb, it'll be tough, there'll be some more problems, yes, I don't think it's a cliff. But what it will absolutely do for anybody going from 169, 209 to 499 or who knows what, it will still be a big bite into people's incomes because that payment's got to go up and there's only so much income. Wages are relatively stagnant in Canada. So it means slower economic growth. People are going to spend less. People are going to be impacted by this cost of keeping a roof over their head. It's just going to keep going up and up. So is it a cliff? Is it going to be a resounding disaster? Everything tells us no, because the perfect examples are Scotia and National Bank, who've had variable rate products where that's gone from like a incredibly low 1.45 rate all the way up to 6.25, 6.2. And guess what? Those defaults aren't huge. Some people did sell their homes, but more or less people have gotten through it. Now, they've gotten through it with a greatly tightened budget. It's been hard on them, but they got through. So that's proof. That is the experiment. That is the subject group that we've already looked at. And it was very, very hard for them, but they got through it. So if those rates are going to be in the 4s in 2025 and 2026, and probably for most of next year, this year, 2024, probably going to be rates mainly in the 4s. Are people going to get through? Yes. Is it going to impact on the economy because people are going to have less money to spend on something else because their mortgage payments went way up and that often caused the people's rents to go up? Yes. Less money for spending on other things and therefore impactful on the economy. So is it a cliff? Maybe not. But is it good? No, it's bad.